guys, it's been a bit sketchy here, and today what I'm going to be talking about is I feel I finally played enough of it to give my opinion on 5th edition. For the most part, you've probably already formed your opinion if you've played it at all, if you've heard other people's reviews, if you've read the book yourself, you probably have your own opinion on 5th edition. But I just wanted to give mine, so if you have no opinion yet, or you just want to nut someone else's input, or you just want to see my insight, this is what I'm going to be talking about today. I think the best place to start with this is sort of at the beginning. I, in general, my general idea is I'm not a fan of 5th edition. There are some things that I like about it. There are a bunch of things that I'm not too fond of. And they all really kind of start in player creation. The character themselves, I think, is one of the parts I like the least about 5th edition. And the reason that is there's far less customization in there. A lot of people might disagree with that. Someone might say, "Oh no, there's more. There's even a whole section on customization." But what was in there was kind of given things that in other editions you took for granted, honestly. I'm not gonna pick it up and look at it, but the things in there in the customization are like feats, the multi-classing. There's a few other things I don't remember off the top of my head, but when feats aren't a given, it's kind of odd to me. Admittedly, I haven't been playing forever. I've been playing for about 5 years, and I've mainly been using 3rd edition or 3.5 or Pathfinder, that kind of skill set. But the thing that bothered me is when I first played, or I first tried to play, I originally joined a group that fizzled out before we even had our first session. When I created my character, and I created a thief, I felt like I wasn't done. It's this weird feeling when you're just, isn't there something else? There has to be more than this, because character creation took roughly 20-30 minutes, which is odd to me. And I think this is also a strength. It is very good at streamlined. You can pick up and play really quickly. I feel I could teach someone this in 5 to 10 minutes and make a character in 5 to 10 minutes. But at the same time, it just moves along way too quickly. One of my favorite things in D&D and role-playing has always been character creation. I like creating this character. I like planning out their development, where they're going to go somewhere someday, and what they're going to become. But in 5th edition, it doesn't feel like that's really possible. Now, admittedly, I play martial classes. I play thieves. I play fighters. This is what I usually play and prefer to play. I've been stuck on a few mages in different games, but that was necessity, and now I'm playing fighters and those kind of thing more. That's what I build most. But it's this odd feeling of there should be more options. And I'm not sure if they intentionally did this. Sorry. I'm not sure if they intentionally kind of made fighters simpler and made mages more complex, but one of the trade-offs always was that mages are these really weak, really feeble, can't really do much early level characters. This is something in RPGs in general. Look at almost every RPG. Your mage character doesn't do shit early on unless there's something exploitable, like in Dragon Age, where you could freeze them and destroy them with 2 spells. But in most RPGs, the mage is usually really feeble and doesn't do much at early levels. And that's kind of gone away. Yeah, mages don't have much health in comparison. In all honesty, they have a lot more health than they used to. So that difference is definitely gone. But back to character creation, there isn't much. It's something where Stupid fucking train. Sorry, I'm gonna talk over that. I'll play it back and I might re-record this bit. But what was really bothering me is that if sorry about that. It felt like the template versus character argument I had in my last video, I think. It really felt like you picked your race, you picked your class, you rolled your dice, if you even did that much. Do you really need to do that? Is that necessary? Like, sorry. Like, after you picked your race in your class, there wasn't much to it. There were a few minor things. You picked your weapons, or you picked your equipment, which was kind of interesting to me, because I was playing a fighter for my second time around, where I'm geared up. I am loaded out. But I'm not going to use most of it. I have 2 axes I'm never going to use. I have a bow I'm never going to use. I have a spear, which I barely use. So you create you pick those 2 things, and you're pretty much done. Yeah, you can pick your skills, which really bothers me. I'll get to that in a moment. You pick your skills. You pick all 2 of them for a fighter, and that's it. That's the end of character creation. You make a few decisions, and then you're done. Everything else from that point doesn't matter. And I understand what they were going for. They were going for a much quicker, much more role-playing based game, or at least I think so. That's probably what they were going for. The only problem is D&D has always been a very crunchy game. It always has, as far as I remember. There's always been a lot of rules. So streamlining it down to the bare bones minimum is just really off-putting. It feels odd to me. And the main thing was honestly the skills. That was one of the things that immediately threw me off, because there is no customization anymore. I say that, and I know there is minimal. You can pick from within this 6 or whatever, but things like feats, they're gone. You can't really specialize in a skill. Because what proficiency is you just get a +2 or whatever your chart says. And the fact that I have 2 skills and 2 attributes that I have proficiency in, so those 4 things I get a +2 in, well, that's nice, but what if I want to be different? So, like, skill monkeys, there can't be skill monkeys anymore. It's just not possible, I don't think. And because that was something I always remembered from other games, where you would have these thieves, or you'd have these really intelligent characters who got lots of skill points, and they could just do so many other things. But now it's really limited. The fact that there's barely any skills. And this is a good thing and a bad thing. If you want very few skills, if you want very broad skills, that's fine. But there's no more specialization, and that was something that even my players, they kind of liked. Even though they're fairly new, they wanted to specialize in something. They wanted to have that massive intelligence. They wanted to have that massive bluff or intimidate. And I still don't think they are the same skill, which is good, but there really isn't a bluff, I don't think. I'm not going to look it up. But I really don't think there's a bluff. I think there is just a diplomacy. And that's it. Are you going to be the nice guy, or are you going to be the asshole, it seems. And I really want to look at that just to be sure, but I don't know. That's just character creation. That just from there. Another thing was that there aren't really feats anymore. You don't get a feat from the get-go, and you never get them. The only time you get a feat is when you get your attribute increases. So, in other games, from when you first start out, you get one feat, usually. And at level X, you get another one. I think it's level 3 or something. But then at level 4 and every fourth level after that, I think, you get an attribute increase. So one of your stats would go up. Now, when you're supposed to get that stat increase, you get to choose between getting that stat increase or a feat. And honestly, to a certain point, you just want to take the feat every single time because a lot of the feats in this book just give you attribute increases, which is nice. If you're going to make us decide, at least have a dual-edged thing. But the ones with attribute increases usually just have a role-playing thing attached to them. Which, again, if that's what you're going for, if that's the goal of the game, fine. There's nothing wrong with making a more role-playing friendly game. So, sorry. There are good things about it. There are things it does well, and usually what it tries to do, it succeeds well at it. But it just feels so stripped away. It just feels like there's little to nothing left. I don't really know how I can emphasize this any other way. But things that I've taken for granted are now gone. And you can get them back, but you have to spend something on it. For instance, combat maneuvers. I know these weren't really... Well, actually, no, I take that back. Combat maneuvers are much different in this. I do remember certain combat maneuvers in other games that were just, you had it, you just have to be able to do it. Pathfinder does this combat maneuver bonus. But certain things that have become almost mainstay, for instance, a good way to start a fight, if you and your opponent are sitting on opposite sides of the room, is a charge. It gives you a good, the fight has started and I've dealt damage to you. It's a good place for a martial character to start out the fight. But now that's gone, so sort of. You can't charge unless you have the feat to charge in 5th edition. So you aren't allowed to run across the room and smack someone in the face with your weapon. You are, but you don't get any bonuses for it. You aren't allowed to do that until you hit 4th level, which really throws me off. Because that, as I said, that's something that my players were using a lot, and it was making fights really interesting to the point where I had to actually give my big bad guy a counter charge to make them think and decide, is it worth charging at this point? And it made decision making and tactics, which are basically out the window now. There's really no reason to think too much into tactics. Because for my character, my currently 4th level fighter right now, there is no reason not to just fully unload everything I have in the first round. As soon as I determine who the biggest threat is, then there's no point in not teeing off on them. And I had a really bad string of luck in my last session to the point where we had to use almost all of our healing potions because I couldn't hit to save my life, and I got crit like 3-4 times. But the point I'm trying to make, that's not really that relevant. The point I'm trying to make is there was nothing we could really do about it. Literally, it was, I'm going to stand in front of you, and I'm going to swing my sword, and you're going to swing your sword, and we're just going to go do this back and forth until one of us drops dead. And I couldn't do anything about it. I used Goading Strike to add some more damage and make sure he's attacking me. He was already attacking me anyways, it didn't do much. I used my rallies to keep my teammates alive a little better. For those that don't know, my character is going down the combat master or battle master archetype, and what that does is it gives me some additional things, which I will admit is nice, having some customization built in. However, when the customization results in pick one of these three and you're following down that path for the rest of the game, that's kind of lame, honestly. I feel like I'm not getting much. But things such as flanking are gone completely. I don't even think you get advantage when you flank. And it really, really makes fights more kind of boring. Like, they're streamlined, and then there's just, we'll just stand here and keep swinging until the fight's over. And yeah, it's I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of that. Another thing I'm not a fan of is some things they've done with characters. Like, for instance, thieves. Thieves are stupid in this game. Like, don't get me wrong. I love thieves. The thief in this game is stupid powerful. He isn't like stupid, oh my god, this is a stupid character. Like, the thing that I'm talking about, and I've realized I've said like 90 times in this video, but the thief has a ridiculous advantage. Thieves are going to be fucking mowing people down. Everyone's going to be mowing people down except the fighters. The fighters can't do dick in this game, it seems. Someone didn't like fighters that much because what they gave them was okay, but God, mages can do more damage than a fighter at first level. No problem. At range, a mage can do more damage than a fighter. And that's scary. Because first level, a fighter was supposed to be king. First, second, third level, up to like maybe fourth level, this is fighter's domain. We weren't supposed to be topped by the wizard at level 1. And that really irks me. Honestly, it does. But as I was saying, the thief, who has always been a DPS character, well, at least since 3rd edition, is now just ridiculously broken. There's no trade-offs to what they do anymore, it seems. What I'm talking about is their sneak attack. Because in 3rd edition and 4th edition, I'm fairly certain, I don't know, a thief or a rogue actually had to flank an enemy to get their sneak attack or their backstab or whatever it was. And this comes to some logical sense, where if a character is fighting 2 people at the same time, and he can't fully focus on both. He's probably, if it's on both sides, he's looking at you, and then he's looking back, trying to watch his back as best he can. Makes sense. Every time he looks back, you shank him in the ribs because he can't defend it as well. You get a good, precise hit on a targeted area because they're not paying attention to you anymore. Makes sense. That's logical. In 5th edition, the way I read it and the way I understand it, and I'm probably remembering it completely wrong, is that the enemy only had to be threatened by another unit for a thief to get a sneak attack. What I mean by threatened is, and I know there isn't map-based combat anymore, I know that they've completely thrown that out, is that, sorry, the character has to be within attacking range of the other character. So if you've got your guy and he's fighting another guy, or he's being flanked, he's getting jumped, or they're just standing next to each other. Like, your guy and the enemy could be back to back for one reason or another. Say you're fighting him and he's fighting him, but your characters are close together. then the rogue gets a sneak attack. Or say the person's trying to run, but he just can't. Say he's knocked down, whatever reason. For one reason or another, two characters don't even have to be fighting. They just have to be close to each other, and the thief gets a sneak attack. Now, some people might say, well, the thief can just, what's the difference between that? It's just flanking again. It's not flanking, because it doesn't have to be within melee range. You can do this with a bow. You can just sit there, take pot shots, and get your sneak attack damage from range. And I understand this does give a little bit more versatility to the rogue. He can continue doing his damage at range. But it just feels weird. It just feels kind of broken. Because this is something I argue with people all the time. Not this specifically. Shooting someone who's moving is kind of difficult. Whenever guns come up online, that's like the first thing that pops up. Why don't you just shoot him in the leg? Because shooting someone who's moving in specific body parts is difficult. So when a rogue is trying to shoot a specific body part of someone who is moving, usually it's not the arm or the leg, it's going to be somewhere in the torso, but that's the thing about a sneak attack. It's supposed to be a precise attack. It's supposed to be something where you're doing more damage because you're hitting a weak area, someplace that is good to hit. So just the ability to be able to stand 30, 40 feet away and just snipe the guy is odd to me. The last real thing that comes to mind that I don't like is a lot of the spells. They have balanced out and they have put some spells right. For instance, I know it's not prestidigitation, but there was a spell that basically gave a bard or anyone who had the spell plus, who's texting me, plus 20 to their bluff. And that was like a second or third level spell, and it was ridiculously easy. Now it's a 9th level spell, 9th or 8th level spell. It's going to take a while to get. So that's a good thing. But things like cantrips, a lot of them are really, I want to say they're overpowered. The ability to just do damage at will as a wizard at range, at a fairly long range. Because a warrior has to be in the fight. Even an archer will run out of arrows. But being able to stand back and D8, D10, D12, it's the D12 is 10 feet range, so you do have to be really close for that one. But it's still ridiculous that a mage can do that much damage at level 1 at will. In general, there's a lot that I just didn't like. I've played 4 or 5 sessions of it, and just a lot of things irked me. A lot of things. The fact that there's no charging, the fact that there's no real tactics, the fact that there's no feats, the fact that my 4th level character has 1 feat, and the only reason I took that is because our group doesn't have a healer, so I took a feat that'll give me some spells. And there's like 20 feats total, maybe. There's not many. So that's generally my opinion. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm gonna keep playing it. My Monday night group is playing it, so it's entertaining. The story's good. Just I'm not real fond of the books. Oh, the other thing that I forgot to mention was it is very good on Roll20. If you do use that, for those that don't know, Roll20 is an online service to play games. The character sheets on Roll20 are really slick, really easy to use. It's so much easier that way. Because all you do, say you have an attack, you fill out all your information for the attack and it makes a little block. You click that button and it rolls the die. Usually it will roll advantage automatically. Don't know why it does that, why it's automatic, but it is. So it does that, and then you click on the name of the attack underneath if it hits, and it prints out the damage. It's really nice. So that's one thing I I guess I'm going to end on some positives. It is really slick, really easy, really nice to use on Roll20 because the character sheet is so simple. Double-edged sword, I don't like how it's so simple. I feel like where the hell is everything? But everything is there, and it's all really nice, simple, where it needs to be, easy to read. So until next time, guys. Yeah, that's pretty much my opinion on 5th edition. So until next time, guys, game on.